Hello everyone, and welcome to the Shakespearean Shrew. I am your Shakespearean Shrew, parent, Feiner, lover of all things bard. This podcast is a decorum to be damned. This podcast is a decorum be damned entrance into understanding Shakespeare's stages, for there are many of them, and all the players on it. We are at OSP in the sale with the actors of the Complete Works of Shakespeare, Abridged, Revised, again. With the amazing cast, Kris Kuss, M. Smith Fraser, Matt, and Holly McNatt. Welcome back to those of you that I have previously tortured on this podcast. And Holly, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
So, Kris and Matt, professors, actors, directors, all the fun things. And Holly, writer, editor, digital marketer, and of course, actor.
Yes, and I'm also single and looking.
You heard it here first.
Oh no, I'm pretty sure everyone knows.
So we'll talk about some events that are coming up. See if any of you are coming to them. So I'm surrounded by badasses, and
Where are they?
Are they coming? They're on the next segment.
So, with all of your diverse abilities and things that you do, you got chosen to play these parts. Was there even like an open casting for this, or was it we kind of know who we want for these different parts for this particular show?
Well, I was in the room when the play was first floated.
You were in the room when it happened?
I was in the room when it happened, and it was I was there when we were discussing like what would be some good plays for us to do. We were particularly looking for something to be really fun for audiences this time of year, something that doesn't cost a lot to produce, but that we can have a lot of fun with and have a lot of flexibility. Something that we thought David would have a lot of fun directing. And once we kind of landed on it, then almost in the same breath, they turned to me and said, "You want to be in it, Kris?" And I was like, "Yes, always, yeah." And then after that, they started having the discussion. Primarily David and Tyler, just who they thought they could get, and they started putting out the call, asking around. This was, I know from that initial conversation, the discussion has like, who can bring the energy, the humor, the creativity, that kind of open play that is necessary for this kind of work. So, yeah.
So speaking of energy, we're 2 nights into the show. Of course, you've already had rehearsals and tech and all of that as well. So we're more than 2 nights into the show, but 2 nights into the actual, having an audience for the show. How are our energy levels? How exhausting is this show? Because it is so fast-paced and...
This might be the sweatiest show I've ever done. I did Mackers outside in a full leather kilt, and I am sweatier after this show than when I did that. It's a labor of love. Like, it's so much fun to play with these two. It's so much fun to play with the audience, but it is going all the time, right? It is quickly getting off stage and changing costumes. It's quickly getting off stage and grabbing a prop. It's putting on a different outfit. It's putting on a different voice. It's putting like go, go. And then we get done and all 3 of us are like holding hands and breathing heavy and just, yes, all right, okay, cool, great, thank you so much. We're gonna go lay down. So it's been a blast, but it is definitely a lot of work. It is a lot of physical effort, and you can tell at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing Matt talk about it, it makes me tired. But like, I mean, I was comparing it to like Noises Off and like musicals that I've done outside in July, and this is definitely the hardest in terms of just like sheer exhaustion, I think. But then there's also, I think these guys would agree, the challenge of we don't want to look like we're exhausted on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's, something David brought to our attention in the 11th hour. We're like, oh, we're not supposed to look like we're struggling? Okay, great. So that's a whole other sort of trick.
Which was also a really good transition point. Like once we got the show completely, into our heads and into our bodies, knowing that last element of bringing the audience in. And what's nice is that the audience kind of provides a little bit of a speed modulation and energy modulation for us, because depending on how they're responding, we can play off of that, and it gives us some time to just have a moment of, like last night we had some audience members shouting out things back to us completely unprompted, and they were having fun with it, which is great, but it also gives us the chance to kind of adjust our energy and modulate it. But yes, it is very exhausting. For the first time ever in my career, I'm having a genuine consideration of how many more shows like this do I have in me, kind of thing. Before I just, what can my next show just be, like a nice parlor piece that I just sit there and just talk in an accent and not have to run around and change into a million costumes.
So check off.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Well, I'm sure. Just like when you get a tattoo, give it a few months down the line, and I'll completely forget like an idiot and want to do something like this again. So.
Yeah.
Not to mention, we're all fighting mysterious bruises, injuries. It's
good one.
I had one last night that you were talking about.
Yeah, it was right. I had a bruise right at the top of my bicep, and I could not tell you why it was there. I have no idea. It's just I have a bruise there now, so that's fun.
He was committed.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of physicality in this production. You are launching yourselves all over the theater, basically.
Oh yeah. Tumbling
and each other.
Tumbling and falling and climbing and rolling, and it's and I think the energy, we want to give the appearance of energy as if we are just kind of throwing ourselves headlong into it, although all of this is mostly planned, but we want it to have that kind of feeling of it's kind of all just kind of tumbling forward. Right. So the audience comes along and they're leaning in, they're like, oh, this is really exciting. Oh, I can't wait to see what happens next. But sometimes for us, there are moments where it's like, I really hope this works out, because this is what we got, all we got left in us.
Yeah. So Dan, Jess, and Adam wrote this play, and they are their characters, and then they are every other character in Shakespeare's 37 works. So for you all are actually playing yourselves. Right? Not playing
a version of ourselves. Yeah.
A cartoon version.
Yeah,
very much so. And there are elements of Dan, Jess, and Adam that sort of are necessary in terms of putting into yourself. For example, Jess's character has a very heightened sense of word usage. So there are multiple instances of using very complex words where very simple things would do. And I'm not saying I never do that, because I am definitely guilty of it. But it's like Holly was saying, it's a cartoonified version. It's amped to 11. So taking yourself and putting them in that shoes and giving yourself that permission to just crank it up a little bit more to make it more of a caricature of who we are.
Caricature.
That's Jessica. Yeah. When David was talking about the show, and he asked me, is there any role you're particularly interested in? I said, I never get to play the idiot. I never get to play the fool in a show. And the character of Adam, again, there is a part of it kind of feels like I'm hearkening back to early college days Kris, who I still took college very seriously, but I also, that's when I first started getting into theater, and I really leaned into the side of I get to just play and have fun. And this character who's very just both his brain and his emotions are just kind of all right there on the surface. There's not a lot of depth there, but boy does he try hard, and I feel like there's something that resonates there with that. But yeah, but it is also fun getting to play a character that the others get to look at and just be like, this guy.
I'm not gonna lie, I would have pegged you as Jess. That was my original inclination.
And when we were talking about that, was when he asked me what do you want to play? It's I feel like Jess would have been kind of more it would have been more in my wheelhouse of just kind of oh, that's kind of where I tend to live. I kind of get overly sincere and overly connected to the lofty ideals of art. But I don't know. It's like I kind of liked stretching another way, and that's what's fun about a show like this. And then we've got this one that she's just trying to hold the reins of these two rabid dogs that are just running off in opposite directions.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I was to see myself in it just from like a step back, I probably would play. What's your character's name? Adam.
Yeah.
But I love this show. I've loved this show since high school. I used to watch the taped version of it that they did in London, the first iteration of it. But I never saw myself in it, because I'm a lady. And, I know that other places have done them with women, maybe even all women. I don't know that Oklahoma has, or at least not recently. So it's just kind of was never on my radar, even though I love the show. But yeah, so it's been exciting to be in it.
Yeah, I was excited. I was like, that's I think, and like what you said, allowing people to kind of push themselves into these different roles is a pretty cool experience. Yeah. So how has it been playing the idiot?
It's fun. It's fun because again, I've got, particularly right at the top of the show, we've got the two that kind of set the tone at the very beginning of the show. Is like, all right, we're going to have a really great time doing some Shakespeare. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a little chaotic, but we're gonna bring you all through it. And then the first thing I do is I come up on stage and fall flat on my face, and totally screw up what I'm supposed to be doing, what my job is there, but still totally committed to it. So and it's kind of like, and then I consistently looking back to them, they're like, did I do a good job? Like, yeah, you did a good job, buddy. Cool, yeah. And so it's. And I think there's just a really a charming sincerity to playing a character like that. That's I want to do a good job. I want to make my friends happy. I want to make the audience happy, and I think that's what we're here to do. And so a piece like this should be something that if they love Shakespeare, they'll get all the in jokes. If they've never interacted with Shakespeare ever before in their life, this is still something that they can enjoy, and that's the hope.
I love this. You guys are just creating my segues for me, so well done. Because I want to know about that aspect of this show, because it is a show that is so immersed in Shakespeare, and yet at the same time is basically a caricature of a lot of the different figures in Shakespeare. It's an interesting way, because I think you could make an argument that it is honoring Shakespeare's works.
Oh yeah.
At the same time as it is kind of taking Shakespeare off the pedestal that he has been put on and putting him back. Not arguing because he agreed, but David Weber and I were talking about it, and this is kind of OG Shakespeare in a way. This is more, I think, authentic to where he was.
Yeah.
In Elizabethan England than where a lot of us have put him in terms of academia.
Yeah.
So how has that been for you? Because that's a tough line to kind of make fun of Shakespeare and really kind of use Shakespeare, but also respect him for the people who are there, who are Shakespeareans and who love Shakespeare.
Yeah, I think part of the something that I started realizing early on in the process is that this show in particular was born out of the Renaissance Festival circuit, and that you can see that if you've spent enough time at a Renaissance Festival, and I work at a Renaissance Festival every year, you spend enough time there working with those performers and seeing their performance style. There's very much what Shakespearean scholars would call a playing to the groundlings, right? You are playing to the basest instincts. It's all jokes about genitals, fart jokes. It's like gross stuff.
Vomiting into the crowd.
It's all that. It's intentional. Boobs, like fake boobs that are all over the place. Like, it's all intentionally a bit bawdy. And I think we get a bit removed from that because we have such a deep love of the intellectual elements of Shakespeare, the iambic pentameter, the understanding, the comprehension that he drew from. But at the end of the day, he was writing for the groundlings as much as he was writing for the queen. And I forget where the quote comes from, but something I refer to all the time in my classes is when you really look at it, most of Shakespeare is just dick jokes and sword fights.
Yeah.
And like that is, you see that in today's
And sword jokes and dick fights.
Yeah, sword jokes and dick fights. Yes, absolutely. So getting to lean into that, getting to say, yeah, and you see that in the sort of character development. The Jess character, my character, is very more into the intellectual, the scholarly, the PhD elements of Shakespeare, and these two characters are more into the sort of comedic, like, investment, the heart, the soul of Shakespeare. And so that gives itself its own little conflict that builds into a really fun experience that can kind of speak to every element. If you are somebody who's been reading Shakespeare your entire life and you love all the detail, or somebody who just picked up Romeo and Juliet for the first time in high school and thought that was fun, but I never want to do this again, you can sort of tie in those fun elements.
It's a good reminder that the art always comes first. If in every single art form in every single period throughout history, it's always been the art that came first, and then academics came along later and shoved it into boxes and gave it titles and said this is what it is. And so, like, yeah, I mean, Shakespeare absolutely was at the top of his game and was celebrated, and he wasn't toiling away in obscurity. He was celebrated in his time, but still he was writing for the masses, and it was only in the subsequent centuries that the academics came along and they started saying, oh, this is the pinnacle of everything, and we should venerate it and love it and put it up high up on the shelf, and then of course with that comes the elitism of that is often attached to academic theater, and it sends a message to the general audiences that, oh, Shakespeare can't be for me. And a show like this is a good reminder, like, it belongs to everybody, and it's great. And not only does it belong to everybody, and anybody can access it because that's what it was for, but because of the long history, Shakespeare's influence can be felt through all of our popular media. I mean, and I think that's the other thing we do in the show, where we have references to other things. I mean, we have multiple Star Wars references in the show because there's something that is very classical and Shakespearean about these characters in Star Wars, which is really, really fun. And you get to see, and we're making references to other popular movies and making references to sports, and just kind of this understanding that everything that we have, give it 400 more years, and something that we consider just mundane or regular part of our entertainment today could in 400 years be considered the next Shakespeare. Who knows? Yeah. And it's a good reminder to the audiences that this belongs to all of us, and it's something that's very fun.
Well, and I definitely think that, Shakespeare would like this show. I mean, I bet my life on it, actually. Because, I mean, I'm sure he enjoyed having the piss taken out of him or whatever, but, like, it's not unlike, like, any celebrity says, like, they know they've made it when they've been parodied on SNL, and so it's, like, it's sort of like that, not to mention, there are really sincere moments, obviously, with Chris's monologue, and then, Matt, too, when he's doing some of his Hamlet, when we have just that, moment of sincerity that really enriches the comedy. And I'm glad it's there, and I think the audience really enjoyed it, too.
Yeah, we can laugh, we can poke fun, and it's all done out of love too. Like, it just like anything like this, we're poking fun at it because we know it. We're aware of its influence. We love it so much, and we're doing this out of love, and it's all with a wink and a tongue in cheek, and just this is really fun. But also, man, isn't this great stuff? Isn't it great that we can, like, point out that, man, Shakespeare really wrote a bunch of plays that were all the same, but
16 comedies.
You know what?
Basically all have the same plot.
But you know what? They're fun.
It's sort of like doing, like, the best man speech at a wedding.
Yeah.
Like, that's what this show is to Shakespeare. He's getting married and toasting champagne.
And I think also, we also touch on the things that make Shakespeare inherently problematic. Like, there are references to, like, elements of Othello and elements of the Merchant of Venice that we touch on and sort of explain that, like, yeah, we understand. Again, he was writing for the masses, and the masses had some problematic understandings of the world. And we've grown significantly in 400 years, and there are still elements of that show up today, unfortunately. But the touch on that and be like, hey, he was writing for his time. Let's have a conversation about that. Let's poke fun at the failings of, like, he was an incredible writer. It doesn't mean some of his writings aren't inherently sexist, racist, jingoistic, and patriotic.
Or that he uses the same themes over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Where that he wasn't just copying from other people's stuff and doing his own thing.
Yeah, but he totally was.
You know, maybe if you didn't write what the audience wanted to see, I mean, they'd throw a bag of shit at you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no pressure.
For sure. I mean, we saw him in his attempt to write what he thought was, or probably was the comedy of the time, like a funny bit, A Man with a Dog. Like, it was terrible. It's, his first comedy, and, two gentlemen have grown. It's just,
Boo.
And we even touch on that a little bit in the idea of the like problem plays or the obscure plays, and how not all of Shakespeare's plays are great. In fact, some of them are bad.
Yes.
They're just not well written, or the stories make no sense, or
there's a plot hole that's like the size of the Grand Canyon.
It's like, okay, cool, we're here now. Or like the one that always gets me is Winter's Tale, which is just functionally two plays he stitched together. And said, sure, that's how we'll end this.
Yeah.
And I still like it.
Yeah, again, it's like, like you'll run into people that just love, they love Two Gentlemen Brothers. They love some of his stuff that's like really
Pericles.
But it's that again, that nice reminder that like he was taking stuff and readapting it and playing with it and toying with it, just like every other artist and every other writer before him. Was like, oh, I like these ideas, the shape of this thing, and I like to mess with it and see what I can do and leave my stamp on it. And we are, and and I think it's also a good reminder, and I tell my students this all the time. Yeah, we love Shakespeare, but let's remember that he was a dude that got. Yes, he was talented, but he also was just very lucky that like a few things could have gone differently, and we never would have heard of him today. It doesn't matter how popular he was at this time. And how many other writers did not stand the test of time purely because the right people weren't there to copy things down and to make sure it got held on to.
Yeah.
So
really, some people pissed off his friends because they put out an unauthorized version of his works, and they were like, screw this, we're putting out an authorized version of his works, and that's why we have it. The majority of the
there is also like this wonderful tradition here of like, again, we're taking the stuff that he wrote, we're continuing to put a spin on it, we're continuing to tease with it, and we still continue to do it to this day. I mean, and so it's a lovely reminder of like celebration of all that we love about Shakespeare, poking fun about all the things we're like, yeah, but these things, and then also, and I think also an encouragement to people to keep on like, don't put this under glass, don't put it in a museum. That's not where this lives. That's where theater goes to die. It should be. Theater is at its best when it's messy and sweaty and kind of it just explodes all over the stage. Yes, I know what I said.
That's why we're not confetti cannon.
That's what we bring.
And the throw up and
the blood and
the cum. Is this the first time cum's been said on your podcast?
Yep, first time for anything.
Yeah.
Although David did say dick.
Yes,
Okay.
but that's different.
That's different.
He's the rookie.
Child's play. Yeah.
So, just talking with all of you, it's really fun to see you play off of each other and what each of you brings to the conversation. How is that on the stage? How does each of you bring something different in terms of the persona of your character? We've kind of heard a little bit about, the kind of tropes, et cetera, that your character kind of personifies, but also like energy levels and the physicality aspect.
If I could actually say what I've seen in them, like I've seen Holly's work before, but I've never worked with Holly, and Holly brings like this really great, just like dry, but very much like a stand-up comedian on stage. It's like this dry observational humor, just like looking and plays really well, like bouncing off of the bullshit that we do, and then sending it over to the audience just for another little quip or another little dig. It's really, really fun, and it's great because that's like it's the exact opposite energy that we're playing with, and so it's really fun to see like that throughout the play, even it was throughout the whole rehearsal process. And Matt and I both coming from a movement background, we're tumbling around like clowns, and then Holly's like sitting there just like sending out these little zingers that's just perfectly timed. It's really, really fun to have that as a counterpoint, and throughout the whole rehearsal process, it would just be like we'd kind of hit a crescendo moment, and there'd be a little suspension of time, and then suddenly just a little comment would just kind of come out from hit us sideways, and I was like, oh, that's really funny. So yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love the fact that, you know, we all came into this not having worked together. So it just, we got to know each other as we got to know the script and the characters, and they're both just really lovely and easy to work with and friendly, and like there's just a lot of trust in the process of this show. Not only with like physically holding each other up, but also just like, you know, I'm just gonna say it, like there's been times when, you know, a line gets dropped or, you know, we're going backwards, it's like, where the fuck are we? You know what I mean? But it's like, we know that we're gonna like be there for each other and, you know what I mean, get each other out of singing spots if that happens or whatever.
Yeah, there's this sense that it all comes down to the trust. There are some real chaotic moments in the show, and on multiple occasions, we've just all like looked at each other and went, all right, just keep on going. And I 100% agree with what Kris was saying about Holly. Her ability to just sort of like cut through moments and get us moving to the next one is wonderful. One of my favorite bits in the whole show, it's not in the script at all, but we're sort of in a tangenty area, and Holly just goes, listen up, fives, a 10 is talking. And like the whole audience just goes right to her, and we move on to the next moment. It's so beautifully set. And then Kris has this wonderful golden retriever energy, just this ability to just be like, yeah, let's go. I'm so excited. Everything's gonna be great. And it's such a fun like comparative to play off of and to craft something that is my own, that is like there's a possibility with a show like this that you get two people who are really excited to do the work and one person who sucks. And I've done shows like that where you walk out of rehearsal every night and you're like, oh man, this is terrible. But there was never a night that I ever dreaded coming to rehearsal. There was never a day where I was like, I want to do this. I was always excited to be here, to work with these two, to work with David, with our understudies who've been fantastic. It has always been an experience of just like, I wonder what we're going to come up with tonight. Like, what's going to be the fun? Mm-hmm. And now that we're in shows, like, what is the audience going to bring? How are they going to create a dynamic new element to this show? And that's been really exciting for me to have an experience, because we're on the stage the whole time. There's no way to just be like, okay, cool, y'all take care of this now. I have like maybe 5 seconds off stage for most of my breaks outside of intermission.
You're changing your something.
Yeah. And even at intermission, Holly has a moment where she's on stage by herself for a little while, but even then that's not like a particularly long thing. And I peek my head out of Autumn's little window just to watch her jokes.
Well, and it's so fun, like, even just, like, I mean, you know, it's like our characters have a relationship, and our characters have a relationship, and they do, and we all three do. Mm-hmm. And it's like, even just like last night, when you were having your meltdown, and you were like crawling off stage. I mean, Kris and I were just looking at each other and the audience. It's just like, oh, this is just gonna keep going. They were loving it, you know, they were laughing at it. It was just like, yeah, take your moment.
Normally we're there to cut it off and keep going, but the audience was like, who are we to tell the audience not to look at Matt while he's slowly worming his way off stage and in a total meltdown? It was so much fun. And I mean, we could see it even from the very first rehearsals. Yeah, like we did our first read through over Zoom, just kind of getting the energy. And the script is really nice because, again, this is something that has gone through now years of rewrites and developments and adaptations and changes. It's been I too watched the old one, and you can see the changes, how they've gone up. I saw the show back when I first started grad school, and some friends of mine were in it, and it was a little different then than it is now. And and they leave room for you to be able to also like play off things, just either things that are feeding into your specific community and your specific theater, or just things that you come up with that just makes sense. Like when we're doing the balcony scene, instead of us pulling out a ladder or something, I'm climbing up on Matt's back, and Holly's like, could you guys not for a second? And like, yeah, we got you. And then we're still silently in front of full view of the audience, climbing onto each other's shoulders while she's trying to have some lines.
And like, at that point, I don't even want to do my lines. I just want to watch them because they're both so incredibly funny in that moment. And I'm just like, stop watching me. Let's look at them.
and yeah, it is a really also a show like this is also a really fun game of kind of follow the bouncing ball audience, like telling the audience where you want them to look, and don't look over here because we're doing something secret over there to set up for this, or no, watch us over here. We don't care where you're looking, just watch something that's happening. But by the end of Hamlet, we've got a sword fight happening on stage. I'm running around behind the audience, throwing out vomit once again and dropping to the ground like a Muppet.
Multiple sock
puppets are flying around. We go into the audience multiple times, so it's a really fun game. Also, just kind of we're playing catch with the audience's attention throughout the show, which is also a really fun thing to adapt to every night, because every audience has a little bit of a different energy, and so getting to see like what games are they interested in playing. Oh, you guys really want to play this? Cool, let's go for it. We'll lead into that more. Or oh, you want to kind of roll the next thing? That's all right. We've got more games for you. And we more than anything else, it's lovely having a show like this where the audience shows up and they immediately get, oh, this is that kind of show.
Yeah.
It's okay for me to laugh. It's okay for me to comment. It's okay for me to respond when they talk directly to me. So.
How many of you have been in a show that is similar to this in terms of like audience engagement?
Yeah, so
your background in the Renaissance.
Yeah, Renaissance Festival. So I work with Viking Encampment, which is an edutainment organization based in Minnesota, and every year we do multiple Renaissance festivals across the Midwest, and it is very much this vibe of we are not creating the fourth wall. There is no fourth wall. We are presenting to you as much as. And in the middle of lines in this show or in any Renaissance Festival show, people will just stop and be like, hey, can I get a bite of that turkey leg? Right? And it's just like, it's those little things that create a really fun and interesting dynamic with an audience that is incredibly unique. And I think the entertainment industry is consistently pushing more toward live interactive moments, especially with the development of AI and people creating things that are more and more bland and beige. And not that beige is problematic. I do love a good beige, but like there are certain elements where it's like I don't want to just sit down and watch another that movie or another that TV show. I want something that is unique, that is special, that only can experienced once, and that's something like a show like this gives.
Yeah, and more and more when people are really like being really thoughtful about. Okay, how am I going to spend my money? And theaters have to justify why they should spend their dollars on this ticket. Things like this, and I mean, you do a lot of work locally as well, and in a variety of theaters or a variety of settings. That I think the unconscious, because I don't think audiences are always entirely consciously aware of what they really want, but there is like an unconscious desire for something new, something fresh, something novel, something exciting that goes beyond the classical or old school idea of a night at the theater kind of thing. Which, it's sometimes you can go for that and you can have that, but then it's also nice to remind people this is just as valid. It's something that they can lean into and not have to stay disengaged from. It's something that they can also get really excited about and play with.
There are certain elements of a show like this that remind me a lot of stand-up.
Oh yeah.
That and post 2020, post COVID, stand-up in terms of performance is one of the few entertainment styles that didn't really take a huge hit.
Yeah.
And then you look at something like Taylor Swift's international tour, where it is an experience. Mm-hmm. It is dynamic. It's new every night, and then you get the people who are trying to like track her outfits, like what messages is she sending, which is really interesting. But the, like
Swiftie.
Yeah.
but that speaks to, you know, getting the experience not only as a performer but as an audience member. It's something I love when I can walk out of the theater and feel like that show was for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't this can of, you know, performance that they uncooked and dumped on the stage and said, "Here, kitty, kitty." Instead, it was something that was honed and crafted and developed specifically for the members of the audience. And we, as a member of the audience, are the only ones who got to experience it that night.
Yeah.
And it's never going to happen again, which, you know, is a little bit sad, but it's also incredibly cool.
It's what makes it special.
It's so cool.
It's what makes it meaningful and important and value, and it adds value to it. And I think it's also a good thing that, as someone who, I'm always working on something, either here at Oklahoma or at Lyric or at Oklahoma City University. It's a good reminder that while not every show we work on needs to be this type of humor, this type of energy, it is a good reminder that like we should always be working to make the theatrical experiences something that is done with the audience, not at them, and to make it something that is living and special, and not just something that not something that you're trying to strive for perfection. That, oh boy, if we can really just nail it, you can record it, put it in an archive somewhere, and great, never touch the play again, you've done it. And that would be so boring if that's what theater was, and it's not, and it never should be. So it's nice to do something like this, and also just kind of remind ourselves, like, yeah, this is at its heart what the theatrical experience is about: is play with audiences.
Well, you don't want to miss this experience, because it is an experience. Whatever show you come to, it's going to be a once in a lifetime experience. And so we are releasing this episode early, you might have noticed, and you might be wondering why. It's because the last 4 chances to watch this show are coming up on the 24th, 25th, the 26th, and the 27th. So show up, sell out. Let's make this, let's pack OSP and get a great audience in here and really experience what this is about. Also, just a note, on Wednesday, the 23rd, it is Shakespeare's birthday. And while we don't want him on a pedestal, we do want to celebrate him. And so at OSP, we are playing bingo. And so you can come in costume, you can come in your birthday best, not your birthday suit. But please come play. All proceeds go to benefiting OSP and our amazing staff and our amazing actors. So please come play. It's going to be a really fun event. I cannot thank you all enough for coming. Just having this conversation tells me so much about how much fun I'm going to have at this show, and I'm so excited. So everybody else, just remember, all the world's a stage, and you too can be a shrew.